a beloved Bay Area fast food institution has served its final hot dog after nearly a century in business. Caspers Hot Dogs, the smell of chili, the hiss of soda, the taste of memory, is gone. Its last two locations, the ones on Oakland's MacArthur Boulevard and in Concord, have closed. The 95-year-old chain, once a cornerstone of the community, has been silenced. For nearly 100 years, Caspers wasn't just a place to eat, it was a heartbeat. Now, that heartbeat is fading. This is the story of the last Caspers Hot Dog. A story of family, legacy, and the quiet death of American nostalgia. Oakland, California. MacArthur Boulevard. The orange and white sign once glowed proudly above a simple brick building. Locals called it the best dog in the Bay. Inside, the smell of onions, chili, and grilled buns filled the air. Kids climbed onto spinning diner stools. Old men swapped stories about the A's, the Raiders, and how it used to be. But on October 15th, the grill went cold. The sign went dark. And for the first time in 95 years, no one ordered a Caspers chili dog. Teresa Belfanti, daughter of owner Harold Kujuhulian, confirmed it. Her voice broke as she told SF Gate. "It's bittersweet, but it's hard without my mom here." Bonnie Kujuhulian, Harold's wife, had died earlier that year, suddenly. And with her, went the last thread holding the old business together. Harold and Bonnie had planned to retire, maybe travel a little, sell the building. But when Bonnie passed, something changed. "It didn't feel right," Teresa said. "Dad just didn't have it in him anymore." And just like that, a 95-year chapter of Oakland history closed its cover. Caspers Hot Dogs wasn't just another eatery. It was an institution, a time capsule of taste and tradition. The story began nearly a century ago, with a man named Kasper Kujuhulian. Kasper was an Armenian immigrant who fled genocide in the 1920s. He arrived in Chicago, like many before him, chasing a dream. A pushcart, a few sausages, a grill. He sold hot dogs for nickels and smiles. But Chicago winters were brutal, and by the late 1920s, Kasper had heard whispers of a better life out west. So, in 1930, he packed his cart and headed for California. He landed in Oakland, a city on the rise, pulsing with opportunity. And there, at the corner of Fruitvale Avenue and MacArthur Boulevard, he opened a modest stand. The sign simply read, "Caspers Hot Dogs." No gimmicks, no slogans, just flavor. People came in droves. Dockworkers, mechanics, teachers, kids after school. A line wrapped around the block. Casper's secret? A chili recipe from Chicago. A steamed bun. And the belief that every customer should leave smiling. Soon, Casper's brothers and cousins joined him. Together, they built something bigger than food. They built a legacy. By the 1940s, Caspers had a dozen locations across the Bay. Each one is run by a family. Each one serves that same signature chili dog. But as with all great American stories, tragedy wasn't far behind. In the mid-1940s, Kasper and two of his brothers died within years of each other. The war, the stress, the times. Their wives and children stepped up. They kept the grills hot. They refused to let the name fade. That's where Harold Kujuhulian, Kasper's nephew, comes in. He took over the Oakland location, the one that would later become the last of its kind. Harold wasn't just a businessman, he was a storyteller. He greeted every customer like an old friend. If you were a kid, he'd remember your name. If you were new, he'd hand you a napkin and say, "You're one of us now." In the 1960s, when the city built new highways, Caspers had to move. The original Fruitvale location was demolished to make way for progress. So, Harold found a new home, MacArthur Boulevard, the heart of the Diamond District. That's where the orange stripes went up. That's where the history continued. And for 6 decades, not much changed. Same stools, same soda fizz, same hand-painted menu. It became timeless. Teresa remembers growing up just steps away. Her childhood smelled like mustard and chili. She remembers her mom behind the counter, an apron tied tight, a smile on her face. She remembers customers who'd been coming for decades. "We used to have this old hot chocolate machine," she recalled. "And on a good day, Mom would put a scoop of ice cream on top. That was special." Those memories, those little details, are what made Caspers more than a restaurant. It was a ritual. Locals say it was the first place they took their kids after a Little League win, or where they stopped before heading to Lake Merritt for fireworks. Everyone had Casper's story. But time changes everything. The neighborhood evolved. New food trends came in: sushi burritos, vegan bowls, boba shops. And through it all, Casper's remained the same. That's what made it beautiful. And, ultimately, what made it vulnerable. The 2000s were hard on small businesses. Rent went up. Foot traffic went down. And the pandemic was the final blow. For 2 years, Casper's doors stayed mostly closed. Harold, now in his 80s, couldn't keep up with the constant restrictions. Then came the hardest hit of all: Bonnie's passing. "It's hard without my mom here," Teresa said softly. "That's been the biggest challenge." So, in October 2024, Harold made the call. It was time to let go. The building was sold to Oakland Trybe, a local nonprofit working with youth and families. According to Teresa, that's what gave her father peace. "They're going to keep it a food business," she said. "And they'll be good neighbors. In a city that's lost so much, at least the spirit of Caspers will live on." "It's the end of an era," Teresa said, staring at the sign one last time. Oakland locals feel the same. Some cried when they saw the paper on the window. Some took selfies with the faded sign, as if saying goodbye to an old friend. On social media, comments poured in. "I grew up on those chili dogs. My dad took me there after every report card. Oakland won't be the same without it." In the end, Harold didn't close the business. He closed a chapter of American history. But Casper wasn't alone. All across America, beloved icons are disappearing. Not because people stopped caring, but because the world changed faster than they could keep up. After 135 years, Bartell Drugs, the Seattle-based pharmacy chain, closed its final stores. It had survived 2 world wars, a depression, and the tech boom, but not the pandemic, not inflation, and not corporate mergers. Rite Aid, the company that bought Bartell's, filed for bankruptcy soon after. Walgreens and CVS have shut hundreds of stores, cutting communities off from local pharmacies. Even Orvis, the 169-year-old outdoor retailer, announced closures. Once the pride of Manchester, Vermont, it's now fighting to survive in a digital world. Macy's plans to shutter 150 stores. Party City and Big Lots are gone entirely. It's not just nostalgia dying, it's identity. Cities like Oakland once thrived on local pride. Every block had a story: a diner, a barbershop, a bookstore. But rising rents and corporate sprawl have squeezed those stories out. Caspers was one of the last holdouts. No app, no delivery, no franchise deals. Just a counter, a grill, and a dream. It's what made it magical and doomed it from the start. For Teresa, the decision wasn't just business. It was grief. Losing her mother, watching her father age, watching their life's work come to an end. It was too much. "It was a heck of a run," she said. "A very long run." She's right. 95 years. That's longer than most marriages, longer than most buildings stand, longer than many cities' memories. If you step inside the old Caspers today, you can still smell the faint hint of mustard in the wood. The grill marks etched into the counter. The ghost of laughter from decades past. Oakland Trybe says they'll honor the legacy. They plan to reopen the space, maybe with a modern twist on the old menu. Maybe keep the orange stripes. And in a way, that's fitting. Caspers began with an immigrant who refused to give up. Now, it passes to a new generation trying to feed the same community in a different way. Because that's what Oakland does. It evolves. It rebuilds. It remembers. Caspers was never just about hot dogs. It was about connection. It was about walking into a place where the person behind the counter knew your name. It's about the smell of chili and onions mixing with laughter and jazz. It's about the feeling of belonging somewhere small in a big, fast world. And maybe that's why its closing hits so hard. Because when we lose places like Caspers, we're not just losing food, we're losing memory. Today, a few of Casper's cousins still operate under the slightly different name Caspers, with a C. You can find them in Oakland, Hayward, Pleasant Hill, Richmond, and Dublin. Same chili, same steam, different era. And for those who ever sat on that old stool at MacArthur Boulevard, took a bite, and smiled, the legend lives on. Because the story of Caspers isn't really about what ended. It's about what I endured. It's not just the end of a hot dog stand. It's the end of an era. And maybe the beginning of remembering what matters most. When Caspers closed its doors for the final time, the sound that lingered wasn't silence. It was a memory. Even now, months later, if you drive down MacArthur Boulevard, you can still see it. The faded sign, the streaks of sunlight across the window, the faint ghost of the letters that once read, Caspers Hot Dogs. The grill is gone. The stools are empty. But the stories haven't left. For the people of Oakland, this wasn't just a restaurant closing. It was a goodbye to an era. In the weeks following the closure, something unexpected happened. People started leaving notes, taped to the window, scribbled on napkins, even written on hot dog wrappers. Messages of love, gratitude, and grief. Thank you for feeding my family for 3 generations. This was where I met my wife in 1979. Oakland won't be the same without you. One note simply read, "We didn't come for the hot dogs. We came for the people." The restaurant had always been more than a meal. It was a meeting place, a memory bank. You'd come in and see Harold, and he'd just know what you wanted. No menu, just a smile and a chili dog. That's gone now. You can't buy that kind of love anymore. For many, the closure felt personal, like losing a neighbor or a grandparent. And for Harold Kujuhulian, the last keeper of the flame, it felt like losing part of himself. Harold still lives in Oakland, just a few blocks away from where the restaurant once stood. He's 86 now, frail but sharp. His hands still move like they remember, flipping an invisible bun, spreading mustard in a single perfect line. It was never about money, he says softly. It was about people walking out happier than they came in. Since Bonnie's death, Harold has spent most of his time looking through old photo albums. Customers smiling, family behind the counter, the long line on opening day in 1962. Every picture tells a story. Every story smells faintly of chili and onions. Bonnie loved that place, he says, staring at a photo of her behind the counter. She said the sound of the soda fizz was her favorite music. When she passed, something inside Harold went quiet. Selling the building wasn't just about retirement, it was about closure. He didn't want anyone else trying to revive the Caspers name in a way that would feel wrong. So when Oakland Trybe, a local nonprofit, approached him with an idea, he listened. Oakland Trybe has a mission: to serve Oakland's families and youth through food, mentorship, and connection. Their vision for the old Caspers space wasn't demolition, it was transformation. They wanted to preserve the original look. The orange stripes, the diner-style stools, the sign. But inside, they planned to create a community cafe, one that would train local teens in culinary skills, provide free meals to families in need, and keep that corner of MacArthur Boulevard alive. "We don't want to erase Caspers," said Oakland Trybe Director Luis Mendoza. "We want to honor it by keeping the kitchen open for the community." That line stuck with Harold. "It felt right," he said. "I didn't want it to become a bank or a vape shop. I wanted it to feed people. That's what it was built for." The sale went through quietly in November. No press release. No big ceremony. Just a handshake, a few tears, and Harold saying one last time, "Take care of her." Inside the building, Oakland Trybe's volunteers found something unexpected. Tucked behind a loose panel in the kitchen wall was a small wooden box. Inside, a stack of old photos, an envelope, and a small metal key. The envelope was addressed in cursive handwriting, "To whoever loves this place next." Inside was a letter from Bonnie Kujuhulian, written sometime in the late 1980s. "If you're reading this," the letter began, "then you've taken over our little corner of the world. Caspers isn't just a business. It's a promise that if you feed people with love, they'll never forget you. Please keep the mustard lines straight, the chili hot, and the laughter loud." The key belonged to an old cash drawer that hadn't been used in decades. Inside were coins, a few faded bills, and a small note from Harold himself. "For the next generation." Luis Mendoza wept reading it. He later said, "That letter reminded us, we're not just inheriting a building. We're inheriting a legacy." The community rallied around the project. Local artists painted murals celebrating Oakland's food history. Former customers donated old photos, menus, even stools from closed Caspers branches. A GoFundMe campaign raised over $75,000 to restore the facade and preserve the sign. Even the city council stepped in, declaring December 12th, Caspers Hot Dog Day, in Oakland. For Teresa Belfanti, Harold's daughter, that gesture meant everything. "It's like watching the past and future shake hands," she said. "Mom would have loved this." The plan was to reopen the space by summer 2025, not as Caspers, but as the Kasper Café, a community kitchen and training center. It's early July. The sun hits MacArthur Boulevard like gold. And for the first time in years, the smell of grilled onions fills the air again. The new cafe looks both old and new, the same orange and white stripes, but fresher. The same counter, but now staffed by smiling young people wearing aprons that say, "Feed the future." On opening day, Harold stood quietly in the corner, watching. When the first customer, a little boy with curly hair, bit into a chili dog and grinned, Harold smiled for the first time in months. "It tastes like home," the boy said. Harold turned to Luis and whispered, "That's exactly how it's supposed to taste." The crowd clapped when the ribbon was cut. Teresa read her mother's letter aloud. There wasn't a dry eye on the street. Caspers is gone in name, but not in spirit. The Kasper Café now feeds hundreds of people every week. Teens learn how to cook, manage a kitchen, and run a business. Elders come in for free lunch Fridays, chili dogs, made from Harold's original recipe, donated by the family. "It's like the place never left," said one customer. "It just grew up." Teresa and Harold visit every month. Sometimes Harold sits at the counter, drinks an orange fizz, and watches. "I don't need to run it anymore," he said. "I just need to know people are still happy." That was always the goal. Across America, small businesses like Caspers are disappearing. But what happens next doesn't have to be loss. In cities from Seattle to St. Louis, from Detroit to Dallas, community groups are taking over beloved local landmarks, turning them into cafes, museums, co-working spaces, and cultural centers. They're proving that heritage isn't fragile, it just needs caretakers. When a 95-year-old hot dog stand becomes a youth kitchen, it's not the end of history. It's history, reborn. Do you ever miss it? Teresa asks her dad. Harold chuckles. Every day. But I'm proud. It didn't end, it just changed uniforms. He looks out the window. Cars pass. Kids laugh outside. This place raised me, he says. Now it's raising them. Teresa nods. Mom would be proud. She's here, Harold says softly, tapping the counter. Right here. In the story of America, we talk a lot about beginnings. But endings, real endings, tell us who we are. Caspers began with a refugee who wanted to feed people. It ended with a family who refused to let that dream die. And somewhere in between, nearly a century of lives crossed paths over chili and mustard. When you think about it, that's the true recipe for legacy. Not the food. Not the sign. But the love that stayed long after the doors closed. Today, if you walk down MacArthur Boulevard, the sign still says Caspers. The lights still glow orange at dusk. And if you listen closely, you might hear it. The faint sizzle of onions, the laughter of strangers, the sound of a community that never forgot. Because some places don't disappear. They just change hands. And live on, one hot dog, one memory, one story at a time. When the last Caspers Hot Dogs closed its doors, it wasn't the end. Not really. Because across the bay, in Oakland, Richmond, Pleasant Hill, Hayward, and Dublin, another name kept the flame alive. Not Caspers, but Caspers. It's a small difference, just one letter. But behind that single letter lies a family story of survival, migration, and love that has lasted almost a century. This is the legacy of California's last hot dog dynasty. To understand how Caspers came to be, you have to go back to the 1940s, the years after the original Kasper Café passed away. The Café family had scattered across California, each relative opening their own stand, each believing they were carrying on the true Caspers tradition. But families, especially immigrant families, are complicated. After Casper's death, some relatives began spelling the name with a C instead of a K. Partly to modernize, partly to distinguish their individual locations, and partly because of a simple typo on a business license that stuck. But over time, Caspers became its own name, its own legend. Same chili recipe, same steamed buns, same hand-sliced onions that made customers tear up before the first bite. By the late 1950s, Caspers' famous hot dogs had expanded to new cities, Hayward, Richmond, and beyond. They were still family, still connected by blood, if not by brand. And that's how two names, Caspers and Caspers, came to coexist, side by side, for nearly 100 years. Two sides of the same American dream. Drive through the East Bay today, and you'll still see the familiar red oval sign with white block letters, Caspers' famous hot dogs. Inside, it's like stepping into 1963. Chrome stools, yellow Formica counters, a menu that hasn't changed in decades. The chili still has that perfect balance of spice and comfort. The mustard still sits in red squeeze bottles next to napkin dispensers older than most customers. And behind the counter, often, you'll find another Cajun. We're cousins, says Mark Cajun, who helps run one of the remaining Caspers locations. People ask all the time if we're the same Caspers from Oakland. We just tell them, we're all part of the same family story. That's the truth. Different spellings, different locations, same bloodline, same mission. To serve something simple, something honest, something that makes people smile. Every lunchtime, the line still wraps around the block. Blue-collar workers, college students, grandparents with grandkids. The same mix that made Casper legendary. The air smells like onions, chili, and nostalgia. People come here because it feels real, says Jennifer Morales, a longtime customer at the Richmond location. No apps, no fancy menus, just a counter, a smile, and a good meal. It's what the Bay used to feel like. Each Caspers still uses a version of the original hot dog recipe. Natural casing, steamed buns, chili made from scratch every morning. But perhaps the most important ingredient isn't in the kitchen. It's in the stories. On the walls of each restaurant, you'll find old photos of the Cajun brothers, smiling with grease-stained aprons and spatulas in hand. No suits. No franchises. Just family. We used to compete with each other, believe it or not, Mark laughs. My dad would joke, ours is the real Caspers, and my uncle would say the same thing. But honestly, it never mattered. What mattered was keeping the name alive. In a world of disappearing diners and digital orders, Caspers is one of the last survivors. And it's not by accident. When the pandemic hit, the chain nearly closed its doors too. Foot traffic vanished. Supplies became expensive. Margins disappeared. But instead of shutting down, the family adapted. They launched an online store for merchandise and gift cards. They started a buy a meal for a neighbor program, where customers could pay in advance for someone in need. It worked. Business stabilized. The community rallied. And when restrictions were lifted, people flooded back, not for the food, but for the feeling. It's weird, says Mark. You'd think people would want the newest, fastest, trendiest thing. But they came back for the oldest. That tells you something about what we've lost. The story of Caspers and Caspers isn't just about hot dogs. It's about immigrants, survival, and American reinvention. When Kasper Café came to the US in the 1920s, he didn't speak English. He didn't have money. He had trauma, the kind that follows you across oceans. But he also had determination, and a belief that sharing food could bridge any divide. He was right. For decades, his family's hot dogs brought people together. Armenians, Italians, black Oaklanders, Filipino shipworkers, white construction crews, all sitting side by side, elbows touching, eating the same meal. Long before the word diversity became a slogan, Kasper lived it. And that, perhaps, is its greatest legacy. We built a community before we even knew that's what we were doing, says Mark. People just showed up. And they kept showing up. The story comes full circle. On one side of the bay, the Kasper Café, built in the old MacArthur Boulevard location, now serves as a training hub for Oakland youth. On the other hand, Kasper's famous hot dogs keeps the family recipe alive for loyal fans. The two names, once separate, now spiritually reunited, represent the same truth. Legacy doesn't die when you close a door. It lives in every person who carries it forward. In 2025, Oakland Trybe invited the Caspers family to their cafe for a special event, a century of chili and community. Harold, now in a wheelchair, attended. Mark and his sons brought a tray of Caspers dogs. They grilled side by side, two generations of Cajun, two spellings of one story. When Harold took a bite, he smiled. "Tastes just like it used to," he said. "We did all right, didn't we?" Mark laughed. "We did, Uncle. We really did." In an age when corporations dominate every corner and algorithms decide what we eat, the survival of places like Caspers feels almost rebellious. It's proof that authenticity still matters. That a simple meal, served with care, can still stand the test of time. For the Cajun family, this isn't just business. It's history. It's bloodline. It's memory turned into mustard and steam. When people eat here, Mark says, they're not just tasting a hot dog. They're tasting 100 years of family. The next generation is already stepping in. Kids who grew up eating at Caspers are now working behind the counter. They know the recipes by heart. They know the stories too. "My grandma used to bring me here," says 17-year-old Lydia, wiping the counter between orders. "Now I'm the one making the hot dogs. It feels like coming full circle." Her manager, Tony, grins. "She's faster than I am. Must be in her blood, even if she's not a Cajun." The laughter echoes the same sound heard decades earlier in the original Casper's kitchen. It's different faces now, but the same heart. In the end, the story of Caspers and Caspers isn't about closure at all. It's about continuity. One man fled genocide and found refuge through food. His descendants built an empire not of money, but of memory. And when the last light went out on MacArthur Boulevard, another flickered to life across the bay. The chili still simmers. The onions still sting. The customers still smile. And that's immortality, served in a bun. Today, you can still walk into a Caspers in Pleasant Hill or Hayward and order the same dog your grandparents ate in the 1940s. You can still sit on a stool, sip an orange fizz, and feel, for just a moment, like time stopped. Because in a world that moves too fast, there's something sacred about a place that never tried to keep up. Kasper built it. Caspers carried it. And Oakland never forgot it. Legends don't die. They just change hands and keep feeding the world, one story at a time.